Los que están de pie les pedimos que tomen su lugar.
If you are standing, please take a seat so we can start with this activity.
Nueva cuenta, darles la bienvenida.
Once again, I would like to welcome you to Costa Rica, hoping that you will take advantage of these 2 days of seminars.
I want to come back home. Oh, please take me back home. Oh,
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, everybody, for being so punctual. We are just a few seconds before starting. We are just waiting for the presenters to get connected so we can start talking about the metaverse world.
I've changed of arms and hands a lot. I've crossed the last one. Oh, I want to come back home. Oh, please take me back home. Oh,
Buenos días a todos.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you once again, and welcome to ASIPI seminar about the Metaverse in Costa Rica. We apologize for the few minutes we are behind, but Metaverse and the virtual world, some unexpected situations may happen. There will be an introductory video for the next panel. What is Metaverse? Interacting with virtual reality. Ignacio Acosta, Future Intelligence, Costa Rica. Alberto Carrillo, Future Intelligence, Costa Rica.
Roberto.
Moderator, Roberto, Rios, Hoglund, and Pamias, PSC, Puerto Rico.
Se preguntarán todo muy
You were asking, it's very nice, but where are the panelists? Well, these have the introduction to the Metaverse, and Roberto Rios, somewhere, our moderator, will be saying hi to us. Are you there, Roberto? Roberto, is that you? Yes, we are here. Are you there? Yes, we are here. We are waiting for you. Are you going to appear or should we continue? But we are already here in the Metaverse. Well, the floor is yours then. We can hear you well. Thank you. Thank you, Martin. Hello, everybody. We are here in our conference room, virtual conference room, to start talking about the first topic today, what is the Metaverse and its interaction with virtual reality. And a little while I will introduce our panelists to you, but what makes us think about this topic that is so in fashion is that the reality of the case, I know some way or another everybody so far have heard the word metaverse sufficient enough to have a very clear idea that somehow we are all have to be involved with this that is known as the metaverse, whatever it is that we don't know yet what it actually is. So what is so curious is that the mass media and even have sold the idea to us that the metaverse is something that is in the faraway future, out of this world for us. And that so far at this point we are not part of this metaverse, so we are excluded and we consider ourselves old dinosaurs because we are not going to be so cool and so hip as when, if you may remember, we had our own MySpace pages. Do you remember MySpace? That we updated the part, we played music, and that was our way to be able to visit each other and interconnect out of this physical world. Curiously, if you ask me, that was our metaverse at the time. Unfortunately, and I know that our panelists probably agree, that reality no longer exists. So what I do want you to understand and what we are going to achieve today is to understand where the metaverse comes from, how it relates, this so-called metaverse, how it relates to the current world, and what we actually need today to be able to be part of this metaverse. If you want to know the answer to all of these questions, don't leave and stay here with us, because for the next hour, we will be answering all of those questions and we will be set the foundations for the discussion that will take place throughout these 2 days. For this, I am pleased to introduce our distinguished experts in the metaverse and virtual worlds, Ignacio Acosta and Alberto Carrillo from Future Intelligence, that is now part of URN. First, let me tell you quickly, Ignacio has more than 5 years of experience in the construction of technologically innovative and immersive experiences in virtual reality, augmented reality, and the web. He has also collaborated with different strategy projects for the metaverse for a wide variety of customers. And in addition, he has experience in business development in emerging companies based on technologies and these companies and in Latin America. But it seems that Roberto left. So let's continue. Similarly, Alberto has more than 10 years of experience. He has a degree in digital animation. He has a degree in law from the University of Costa Rica and a master's degree in internet communications and audiovisuals by Carlos Sotero. So he is also a developer and founder of 10 Makers in Costa Rica, U.S. Take of immersive experience and architect manager's journey in the creation of metaverses. And all of this complements with an experienced expert knowledge in the art of cooking spaghetti, as he says. So, dear panelists, here are our participants. Nice to meet you. Hello, how are you doing? Welcome.
Bienvenidos.
Welcome, everybody. I hope that you are doing well and you are enjoying Los Sueños. Some of you we have met over the couple of last 2 days, and we hope you enjoy this talk a lot. And I am Ignacio, and here we have Alberto. Can you see him? Yes, it's a pleasure to be here. We are part of Futures Intelligence Group, as Roberto mentioned, now called Journey, and we are going to be talking about what the metaverse is and its interaction with virtual reality. To be able to talk about the metaverse, we have to understand where we are coming from, where we are, and where we are going. So, where are we coming from? You may remember the 90s when we had the signal, that sound that was interesting when we dialed up to internet. Then we went to what we have been living over the last few years, which is Web 2.0, which connects people. And right now we are in a transition to Web 3.0, which is going to connect things, people, and places, and will make us live our digital lives, digital and physical lives differently. And it is that internet at the beginning allowed all of us to have only a web, an internet page where we were able to share our information with the others, and this opened up many possibilities, but interaction was not as huge as it is today with Web 2.0. We are all controlled with the social media where people can now exchange and interact socially throughout the day. And even here, there is someone that says that I remember the days when I say I'm going to disconnect from the internet, but now we are permanently connected to the internet. And Web 3.0 is an advancement of this, which we not only have our cell phone and our smartwatches always connected with notifications, but our world starts integrating with the digital world. And all of this information is already part of our physical realities, our physical space. So what is the metaverse? As we were saying a while ago, basically, it is the next version of the mobile internet, as Alberto mentioned. We are not so pending of our notifications, but it's going to be something that will be surrounding us. So it is going to be what can mix the virtual experiences and our virtual lives with our real life. And as we said before, it is going to connect people, things, and places. Now, there are many platforms being developed that are beginning to create these metaverses and using different engines and using different formats. And the idea is that at some point in time, all of the companies that are creating these metaverses have to join to create a common protocol to be able to have an exchange of information in the same way that we can now share the social media. In the future, we will be able to share the avatar that I created in the Facebook platform. I will be able to use it also in platforms such as Rolex or Samus, and the standardization and the union among all of the platforms is going to create really the metaverse as we expect it to be. So what technologies are going to make it possible to develop the metaverse? virtual reality, augmented reality. Virtual reality is where we are right now, which you are in a physical room and we are in a virtual room. Augmented reality, which is the one that we use with our mobile devices or tablets to see content overlaid over our physical reality. Video games, and this we include Roblox, Fortnite, Core, Decentraland, Sandbox, many others. The 5G and Wi-Fi 6 networks, blockchain and NFTs that I think they are going to be discussed during the conference, artificial intelligence or AI, the cloud and edge computing. And the union of all of these technologies will make it possible to have a more immersion and an interactivity and the possibility for the spaces that we are seeing from our mobile devices or computers can be part of our surroundings. So we are no longer to have WhatsApp notifications on our telephone or watch, but we will have them in a screen in front of us where we are talking with our friends. So this requires many technological advances that are taking place today, and it also depends a lot on high internet connectivity such as 5G and forward to be able to share more quickly all of the information that we need to share. Devices. There are many devices that can help us in the metaverse. One of them is what we are using today, which is the Meta Quest 2, which is our virtual reality visor, which allows us to enjoy virtual surroundings of video games, talking to our friends in different using different apps, and it also allows us to create video game surroundings, and it also allows us to project. Yes, it is noticeable to understand that MetaQuest 2 last Christmas in Amazon was the device, the most sold video game device over PlayStation 5 and Xbox. It was a great sales success, and millions of users joined this year by buying this device, which is very affordable for the masses of the public, which is part of the technology and the challenges, which is the massive adoption by users. Yes, in maybe to give you an example, 3 years ago, Quest 1 was about $1,000. Yes, more or less. And it also required to have a setup with all of different kinds of sensors. But now it is about $299 or so. Yes, between $300 and $400 more or less, depending on the number of or the amount of storage, which is precisely to be able to massify the utilization of these visors or viewers. What other devices do we have right now? I think that I understand that this is one of the best sold and commercialized because probably it also was one of the first, but now it also has Facebook and Meta supporting it, so it has a marketing support. But definitely there have to be other devices that can help us connect to what we are going to call the metaverse, which is not necessarily limited to the experience that we get through Quest. What other devices are available? We have HTC, the Valve, and more recently in China, they started promoting Pico, which is a direct competition to Quest that doesn't require any computer, but a device that is a standalone device that is about $700. And we are starting to see about two different markets, one for visor viewers that are very specialized with high tech, professional tech, and screen, and some others that are more affordable, that do not require the computer. Another company, do you have any other examples that you can show to us? We can also talk about the augmented reality, which are the smartphones, are things that are introducing us to the metaverse, and really this has progressed a lot with the pandemic. There are things maybe 2 years ago that we didn't see this, but sometime we go to the restaurant, the first thing that we get is for us to scan a QR code to see the menu. This was not common 2 years ago. No, it was not, definitely not. This is an excellent example, Beto, but I also believe that our colleagues in the room are going to be better familiarized with Pokemon Go, which probably many of their kids and nephews are constantly playing it. This is an excellent example of augmented reality and how it is used. That's right. This morning I was playing a Pokemon actually. This morning. We also have I got stuck. We also have the devices that are much professional, which are mixed reality, which are HoloLens, Project Cambria, and a while ago, the new Magic Leap, the new version of Magic Leap was announced. So this allows us to see our physical environment with virtual content. As you can see, they are a little bit larger, let's say, and usually they have to be connected to a computer for the processing to be ideal. That there is a mixed reality, is a real actual reality that immerses you in a virtual environment using augmented reality, which means introducing digital elements within our surroundings through a window, so, which is our device, our cell phone. So mixed reality are glasses or lenses that are transparent and allows us to be within our physical environment, but also allow us to introduce these digital elements within my physical reality. So next example, let's continue. Then we have to talk about these two devices that are coming, as they say, which are glasses or lenses. You will see an example of a video of glasses that the ones that we normally wear to see, but they will allow us to see digital content and help us in our day-to-day activities. And as they have been saying, it was expected that this year Apple would be launching its augmented reality glasses. However, precisely yesterday, news from Verge told us that it seems that they will have to delay the launch up to 2023. Okay, perfect. Yes, let's watch the video.
My mother speaks Mandarin, and I speak English, which is a strange thing.
他讲英文我可以听得懂，可是有时候我讲不来嘛。
We'd love to be able to share with you a new prototype we've been working on. You should be seeing what I'm saying, just transcribed for you in real time, kind of like subtitles for the world.
What we're working on is technology that enables us to break down language barriers, taking years of research in Google Translate and bringing that to glasses.
You see me?
Oh, sí te veo.
I'm actually looking straight into your eyes, and it seems like you're looking right at me.
Oh, sí, estoy viendo lo que estás diciendo para allá.
Making access to information just instant and intuitive. By doing that, technology fades into the background, and we're more connected with the people and the things around us. Giving people the gift of communicating with anyone, no matter what language they speak, I think is a really powerful thing.
Que tengo que dialogar con muchas personas que solamente...
I have to talk with many people that only speak English as magic for me because I will be able to understand what they say completely.
想沟通，我爱你。
Bueno, aquí regresamos de nuestro metaverso.
So we are back from our metaverse to our virtual reality. What do you think? Interesting, right? These are the MetaQuests. They are not cheap, so handle them carefully. So thank you very much for your patience. Very quickly, let me tell you, because we have time constraints, it is a very particular dynamic I have because I bought it for my children, the MetaQuest, and we use them mostly to experience video games, but then I started more immersed to watch videos. There are apps that allow you to do it. I personally visited the White House, especially with Barack Obama. He gave me a tour, a 360 tour, and this is a completely different experience, but I had never had the opportunity until this dynamic took place to really use this as a collaborative working tool. So when we did for the first time, and I can see the avatars, it felt so weird, so out of the normalcy. But after 5 minutes, I was already talking in a very normal way because the way in which the movement replicate, the way you move your mouth, how I point to you and how I say hi, it's a familiarity within the generation and the user interface. So this is just a sample of where we are getting, specifically Meta, and how this is really going to influence the way we perceive what we see in the metaverse. I have my experience from this perspective. So let's continue with our presentation. To continue, Web 3.0 differentiates a little bit from the metaverse in that Web 3.0 comes from or focuses on how people, spaces and places connect to each other, while the metaverse tells us how we are going to live through these experiences. Now that I see Doña Carmen, she asked me where the etymology of the word metaverse comes from. And it comes from the combination of the word meta, that is beyond in Greek, and the word universe. So I answered your question. Well, the great idea that we have about the metaverse comes from Ready Player One, which is what we all want to be, a universe in which we will always be able to use an avatar that we can customize as we did it in a free way to make experiences as natural as possible. But for this, we require technology to advance a little bit more. But from now, we can start experiencing all of these kinds of experiences in a little bit way with all of the resources. Yes, another reason why it took you about 5 minutes to get used to that is because ultimately virtual reality is the art of cheating on the brain, and the brain is not easy to cheat on, ironically.
So what's the impact of metaverse in our society? We're starting to see certain impacts in the amount of people who are creating various contents from NFTs, virtual worlds, and small platforms where they can create their own offices, for instance, or they can create replicas of their houses if they wanted to. So basically, it would impact almost everything. Autonomous vehicles, how we're going to live the experience of an autonomous vehicle. And at the end of the day, what we want to think, and that's one of the things that as a company we try to convey, is that the community and authenticity is in the heart of Meta Universe and Web 3.3. Everything is absolutely to improve communities and how we live our lives. Yes, Metaverse has to be thought about as a place that integrates the physical world with the virtual world. And let's remember that, again, define this as the Internet of Places, how we connect everything we have in our physical world with virtual environments that allow us in a more social way and connect us in a more direct way with other people. Next. and how will it impact businesses. And we have one of our clients here. We cannot still specify what he's a client of, but he's a client of ours. And people will explore their identities currently in the different metaverses, because right now we have many metaverses around there. So people can have their identity digital as they like. I was speaking with Luis from Panama on Saturday, and he was telling me that for his daughter, it was as important how she looked in these environments compared to her day to day. So this is part of why it's so important, because at the end, it produces millions and millions of dollars are produced by these platforms when they sell all these assets, all these skills in Fortnite. So it basically becomes a way on how they express how they are in that environment. It, eventually, it creates different income sources and different uh, streams in different areas, and basically for all businesses. And the challenge here is to see how we integrate the physical part with the virtual part in a more intuitive way. Recently, I had to fly, and something that happened because I'm a little old-fashioned is that I had to print everything I had for my flights, hotels, and no one ever asked me for it in print. I showed everything digitally. We would have all this information in NFT and be able to show it with the phone, and you just click in these platforms, which are touchless. The idea is to start thinking how to integrate our environment with all this virtual world. Something very important is that we completely have to vary the flight journey of all the companies. We're in a moment in which the industry is coming about, so we're still not using it 100%, but this will eventually affect all industry, and we have no doubt about that. Besides that, this will create new purchase points. You will only not buy physically or through a website, www.mystore.com, but now you'll be able to visit a virtual world and to buy any given product. As we said previously, you have the experience, you visit, and there has to be an interaction with hardware. But think that from the comfort of your home, you can go to a supermarket. It's the same layout as you know it, but you see it through an avatar. So think about the time you would save instead of having to walk and visit different shelves. We have for you the products of digital world of the products to interact, as we said, but to read, be able to see the content. You'll have augmented information, comparison between prices, just that it would take you an ordinary purchase, half an hour, 1 hour, and something you could do from the comfort of your home in 20 minutes. Some here would say that's what I have the supermarket app to order food. But the difference is in this other environment, you can have a chef giving you the whole recipe, and it's an algorithm that's talking to you that learns with each answer of each interaction the best way to respond to explain the recipe. So this completely changes things, and the app can do that. Let's continue with the trade. Well, the physical is what we knew, the traditional, and then e-commerce came. And then we have the virtual to virtual, physical to virtual, and virtual to physical. Virtual to virtual is relatively simple to understand. What example will you like, Beto? Virtual to virtual. It could be, for instance, two typical skins that are bought in Fortnite to customize the character kids use, that which is all the market of millions. You don't realize this until you have nephews and children who spend $150 in avatars, that you're thinking, why are they buying this? Well, it's part of the identity they are forming in the virtual environment. Then there's physical to virtual, There's an example of LOL2, an example of last year they produced 10,000 collection dolls, and each one of the boxes of these dolls had an NFT that people could redeem and acquire, and then there's virtual to physical, or some protocol, Decentral, is doing a great job for when you buy an NFT. You can then go ahead and redeem that NFT for a virtual asset, for a jacket, or for whatever type of asset. The science behind this, and that's where we're going. In reality, what will make the difference is how to enable and unblock the largest components of this new type of trade. We'll require devices, of course, we'll need 5G, but we'll also need for the companies and for ourselves to have a forward vision, understand that our generations are changing. There are many of your children or grandchildren, for them, reality, they live in virtual worlds, not as much in the physical world. And besides that, it's a great opportunity. According to Morgan Stanley, in January of this year, approximately, it's $8 trillion, the Metaverse opportunity. And CT 3 months later, a study says it's $13 trillion. So this is very big, and the more people adopt it, the opportunity will continue and continue growing. People who develop these type of technologies for several years have noticed the difference in the last 12 months and exponentially of the interest of companies. 7 years ago, part of my sales pitch with national companies to offer them virtual reality services, half of my pitch was explaining what I did and why I'd had to use it. Now I no longer have to do that, since the announcement of Meta, the change of name and change of focus to Metaverse, and all the virtualization we have been going through and enjoyed because of the pandemic. The companies now are contacting us and they're saying, I need a metaverse and I don't understand how to do it. So they understand the need, they don't understand the technology, and that's why now they're looking for the experts that could show them all these technologies. So we see a change of focus, which is important, and it makes us be prepared to respond correctly to this need that is before us. NFTs, well, the non-fungible tokens, I think this is something of great debate. And we'll be discussing this in a different session, but at least for you to know the role NFTs can have in Metaverse. We can go on to the next slide. There was a slide explaining this a little better. NFT we could see as an image to take a screenshot, but it's not that. NFT, next slide. NFT is something you have in blockchain technology. It's a digital asset that allows us to give a certain type of digital authenticity certificate, donors to have access to places and assets. It records all the transactions of who is owned it over time. It could tell us who the author is, and it could even at some time tell us who the owner is. At this moment it's a little difficult, but it can be possible. At the beginning you had your own reserves about this. Well, I still have my reserves on how NFTs are used for internet fraud we see every day, but technology which is behind it is a very safe way to identify a digital asset and be able to link it to different things depending on what we're interested. As I said, an NFT doesn't have a value in itself, but it's a certificate, safety certificate, which is quite safe. And for instance, you buy an NFT for a football team, and this could give us the security with the team, the assurance that I have access to benefits, for instance, VIP benefits for the bleachers or to get to meet the players. I think, side note, is that those of us who study law, it's very interesting to me. It makes me happy that fungible now became popular, and after basic private law, now people are asking more. What is that? And now you can explain this just beyond the difference between an apple and a painting. But basically, an NFT has the capacity to give digital security of who is the owner of an asset, of someone who has a digital as well as virtual assets. It serves as a link to relate the virtual world with the physical world. And I think it's an important benefit to point out. Virtual worlds. Well, virtual worlds are these environments in 3D that Alberto creates as an artist and art and tech lead in the office, where youth and children, most of them, and all of us in the future, where we will be interacting. Next slide. There are two types, the centralized virtual worlds and decentralized. Centralized, the most common examples to understand are Fortnite and Roblox, and they are basically the owners of the video games, and they only have a base of players that connect, and they spend their money there, they interact, and it's an opportunity to interact. That's true. But the decentralized virtual worlds have the great difference that people can own different spaces within this platform. So next slide. This is an example: Fortnite, Pokemon Go, Roadbox. These are centralized and also core, and decentralized. Some are Upland, decentralized, and the Sandbox, High Street, and Somnium Space. Many of the centralized use blockchain as technology to be able to function. And part of what's behind decentralized worlds is the idea that we had originally of the first internet, which is a free space where it's autonomous, interconnected, but no one owns the network connections. But instead, it's democratic. Everything is shared. Centralized worlds are bigger efforts from the companies that have more funding to develop all of this. So Meta at this moment is investing to create its own metaverse. And all of this is a social battle that is happening to see who's going to own the metaverse, because metaverse is not only a platform, but the connection of all these things. So the point is, the same way currently our internet is free for now, everyone can use the platform they want. It's how we're going to be able to interconnect all these platforms without one being more powerful than the other. And this will depend more on society. And one of the things is we believe that metaverse should be open, it shouldn't have an owner. And to achieve this, there's a long way to go. However, it's a need that's open to not have an owner. We've seen all the scandals that Meta had at the beginning. Therefore, it changed the name to Meta. The Cambridge Analytics, for instance, how they manage data. So I believe it's better for the world to have an open metaverse. And before we continue with the next slide, this is something we're discussing. All these platforms, all these virtual worlds exist. They're completely developed, and they'll continue developing as far as user interface and as we have greater hardware power. But one of the challenges, if we want to speak about interconnection in these virtual worlds, is how you build this road that will take you from one virtual world to the other in an organic fashion. It's not that I play Pokemon, I want to go to Outland, I disconnect and then I connect. That's a barrier in the final goal of what we want as Metaverse. This interconnection to be organic, seamless, and this is something which is important and open for discussion in a future debate. This is an example of our offices in the different platforms. We have offices in Fortnite, in Roadblocks, in the Sandbox, and in Core. Depending on the client, our meetings sometimes are in the Metaverse. We don't use Zoom, but we just simply connect to one of these worlds and we speak with the client. Beto created these. And real estate in the Metaverse. There are platforms that allow us to buy, to purchase land. And much of this land has gained great value in the last 2 years. There's an example, Decentraland land, which was created in Argentina. And by the way, it's a very good platform. There you can purchase a virtual land, a 1x1, which is 16 by 16 meters, and build an office there. You can build an experience. As you can see in the image, Atari has land there. And the Sandbox, which is another platform, Snoop Dogg has its own land. So there's a town surrounding. If you're closer to Snoop Dogg, it's more expensive. If you're not, well, it's not as expensive, but they have different areas. They have fashion, they have Snoop, you have video games, so on and so forth. The interesting thing is that it starts generating sensation of real spaces in something that can no longer be done with social media. I cannot say that my Instagram is close to Snoop Dogg, but I can say that my house is 3 or 4 blocks away from him. So when he has a party, I can go and visit my neighbor. Of course. And this is part of what starts generating this new idea, the same social interaction we have with social media, but now in a more natural and intuitive way as we have with the real social interactions. And the interesting thing when we speak about real estate and Metaverse and virtual worlds, I always recall that when I would heard or read news of someone who was selling property in the moon, in Mars, for instance, I would say they're crazy. Who would buy that? Well, there's people that are crazy and who would buy that with the expectation they someday can visit. But the interesting thing about these virtual worlds and Metaverse is that it can be real with a virtual connection. It can be real, but as you explained, there's a functionality. There's something I can take away. There's a value. But the interesting thing is that now you can sell and it's monetized. Property in Mars is monetized. So now I could see the sense of it. So the economic factor here is very important, especially in real estate, because real estate is something that when you're going to build and you have land limitation, you build vertically. So now you don't have that limitation. Now you can build horizontal and vertical in different worlds in the galaxy, but you do have limitations. It's a matter of processing now. So the platforms tell you can build this, or that, but within these limits to not affect the processing of image of the devices that will go and see this. But that's today. So we always must specify that. Currently, a property could be $13,000 to $15,000 in the Metaverse. So you're in the wrong business, by the way. And with this, we finish. Now we can open a Q&A session. Any questions?
Yo sé que esta es una
I know this is an introduction to the topic, and we'll have 2 very intense days speaking about Metaverse, but I would like to hear from you regarding an introduction to the economic impact this could have and the profession of attorney, the way we work and how attorneys can impact or be impacted in their profession and their day-to-day. There are several ways to respond to that. First, they will be impacted because you will have to have virtual offices to help your clients. That's the first thing. And this requires an investment, but also to a certain degree, it could expand your client base. You're no longer only with street or common clients, but now it's much more open. On the other hand, for me, there will have to be a specialization, fine-tuned specialization of attorneys in blockchain, smart contracts, and NFTs specifically, because I do believe there will be many, many suits and issues in that environment. So the ones who will be benefited are those who are educated in this. And besides that, there are cases currently that are complicated cases with NFTs and Hermes, for instance, brand, he had to sue a digital artist who recreated type of purse, and it's something complicated. So I'll leave the attorney who works with Metaverse to expand on that. He got bored of law. And, I prefer to develop a virtual worlds instead of suing. Law is being affected since NFT it's across the board in the areas of people, the same as our digital life, and Metaverse tries to do that, but this will create a number of specifications in this. For instance, in criminal law, to think about for a judge, it will be very easy to scan crime scene and use augmented reality and mixed reality. We have a demo for that next to the parapenting. You can see an augmented reality scene. We can also think, for instance, there has been several cases, several charges of people who perceive they've been sexually harassed in Metaverse and VR chat and in Facebook Metaverse, which is Horizons. Let's also think in the private law how this impacts IP and how we can think about protecting all these places, land and the Decentraland. It's really a piece of code. So according to our current law, it would be treated more like a work of art, it's a book. But it has a lot on real rights, how I can mortgage a book, for instance. So we have to start evolving and thinking more on how to integrate these new digital concepts in our environment. As far as data protection, for instance, privacy is a whole issue. For instance, the avatar I create in my virtual world is no longer just a doll, but it's part of my digital image, therefore it's subject to different rights and obligations. So the limit is where human interaction can go, because law and Metaverse are 2 areas which bring together all this world of our social interactions in life. And I think that with technological factors, it could possibly not simplify, but help us in oversight and monitoring. All this is controlled by algorithms, artificial intelligence. So it might be easier or for the algorithm to detect some bank fraud or anti-piracy compared to our current reality, where you have to show well, it's easier. You find the wrongdoing, and the code eliminates it immediately, and this simplifies, in general terms, many processes that that in real life are carried out with the monitoring. Thank you. I think the question is regarding the jurisdictional issue. The virtual world has no borders. So how do you think in the future we can manage a dispute? For instance, someone is in the virtual world in Japan physically, and someone here in Costa Rica, and there's an issue or a problem between both parties. What do you think would be a solution for this type of issue? I'm not going to refer to that. It has several answers. Many hypothetical, it's a hypothetical case, but we can start from what we have with international trade. If someone does something with my Facebook profile, I know that Facebook has its servers in the US, and when I'm browsing in those servers, I'm accepting the terms and conditions of Facebook. Therefore, I abide to California's jurisdiction. But in centralized metaverses, it wouldn't be so difficult because I'm simply abide to the terms and conditions of what the company is telling me. It's a little more complicated, but for instance, if we see things like data protection law or rights, because the current European regulation demands that regardless of where the server is or the company, you must fulfill their regulation in case any European user uses those services. The complicated thing is in spaces like Decentraland, where by definition are decentralized, and it's formed by people from different parts of the world. There's no centralized server, and it has its own governance way. So this is more similar to de facto society. So within this organization, it has its own jurisdiction, but it becomes something additional to the traditional jurisdiction. So it's like with cryptocurrency or crypto coins, until the countries recognize the authenticity of it, I cannot say I cannot sue Decentraland beyond that world. So you can come to the courts in San Jose, for instance. I cannot bring this to court, and for the judge to say, he's going to say, I have no competence here, I don't know where to send you. So this has its own challenges. We'll have to get together, bring our minds together to see how to solve. The last question, and we'll finish, Kike, talking about NFTs and the non-fungibility they have. I understand that there are issues with copies, and how much I understand that the asset is non-fungible, but how to monetize this with this sensibility there is in having so many copies, where's the value, and if there's been conflicts, and how have these been resolved. I think especially in MRS, it's an NFT case, and that's an example. What's the difference between copies and the genuine? Well, what's been created, complexity created around it, but it's very valuable. In Bored Ape Chat Club, how they've created this community where they allow merchandising within one same NFT is something that adds value by itself. Besides the fact that we will see cases of suits for use of that. And there's another question in the back. The other question will take the emails of our panelists will be available and accessible. You can communicate, and they'll be willing to entertain questions. One last question, one additional question. Sorry, no. Last question. Thank you, Roberto. I was asking myself, someone said once that if crypto coins was a fad or if it was something that came to stay, without a doubt, this came to stay and continue great development. What concerns me is the level of dependency society will have of that virtual world, in the sense that the risk that there will be crisis like what Costa Rica is enduring with cybersecurity. So it's like if I told you that we're enjoying this talk with this very nice company, and all of a sudden there was a power outage, and the world dies at that moment. So I'd like to know if it's possible, some thoughts regarding that specifically, that dependency humanity will have of the virtual world, which will depend on the existence of platforms to interact at a proper level to allow that world to happen. I think we already have that dependency. I think we all went through this when we had a WhatsApp disconnect. We're all thinking, how do I communicate? What do I do? That already exists. And the solution, personally, I believe, is to try to find a balance between the creation of synergies. Thank God, in this country, most of the energy that is produced is from natural resources. Are we exposed? Yes, we are, but we always are. Cell phones could be hacked at any moment, and we have 20 or 30 years using cell phones, and not just because of that, as this has impeded the growth of the cell phone industry. I think we must also understand the importance all the society agents have to create a safe environment, because technology will just continue advancing. That's a fact, and and that's been the case for the last 2,000 years. So how will we allow for these systems to be increasingly safer? Like in Costa Rica, where everything is hacked, all the government systems have been hacked, and this is because there was protection and cybersecurity at a very low level. And you can find the private agents that are collaborating with state agencies where they weren't providing most of their services. So how do then companies collaborate with governments with the right vision going forward to provide the security and stability to all users, and to think that in the future I have a surgery and not have to suffer because my profile was hacked and I don't exist in the system. And just to add and finish, I'll leave you with this final thought. And when there are situations like what you said, it's not critical, even if there's chaos, because the virtual world and this virtual reality will actually complement our real life. So if we can give it a percentage, we could say we have 80% real and 20% virtual. And what would happen if the society moved and it turns out where 80% of our life was through virtual reality, and our reality would serve only to complement the virtual reality. So thank you very much to our presenters. A big round of applause. It's been a pleasure. And please stay, enjoy the rest of the topics. They're of great interest. Thank you, Roberto. Thank you, Alberto. Spectacular introduction to the Metaverse world. There's many questions, and we're afraid of asking because it's very many. And we'll have 20 minutes for a coffee break. 10:20, we start with the next panel, why Metaverse is relevant for intellectual property.
So alive, but I said I would die for love. Oh, I swore I'd find it, and I never let it fade away.